Hello, and welcome to Aha Moments. This one is entitled Celebrate the Differences and was originally sent out on February 5th. So, when I say sent out, that means everybody on our email list would have received this at 8 a.m. February 5th, 2024. If you're not in the email list, get in the email list. Go to ahumanapproach.com and subscribe, and you will get Aha Moment Mondays every single Monday at 8 a.m. Eastern, and a great way to start your week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read that aha moment, and then we're just going to unpack that experience. So aha moments, if you haven't jumped on them yet or you're not subscribed, then you'll know that the aha moment Mondays that I've written for probably 8 or 9 years now, they're citing examples of situations that you probably have experienced, either things that you've thought or things that you've engaged with or something that's happened in your life, either with yourself or others, and just taking a little deeper look at it. And the reason that we do that I believe that we learn one aha moment at a time, that's how we evolve and that's how we grow, is one aha moment at a time. Sometimes those aha moments are little, they're just little nudges or they're little nuances that kind of shift our perspective to a certain extent. Other ones are massive. It could be, it could be a death in the family. It could be a loss of your job. It could be a move. It could be something more tragic or instrumental of a huge shift that's happening in your life. So the ahas are, the little, big, and everything in between, right? The point is that every one of those aha moments makes you look at things just a little differently, a little deeper. And what you learn is not about the situation, you learn more about yourself every single time, right? So this particular one is an experience that I have. I'm going to read it and then we'll talk about it for a minute. Okay, you ready? Here goes. Let me just call it up here. Called Celebrate the Differences. All right. I experienced an interesting text exchange with my cousin. Now, she's not on social media and unsubscribed from Aha Moments a while ago so as not to clog her inbox. No chance of her seeing this, though I would welcome it. You see, she didn't appreciate that I had planned to send her a birthday card because by doing so, apparently I was polluting the environment. I explained that the climate is not in the crisis they are leading us to believe, and cheerfully defended my even bigger picture, that in buying the card, I was supporting a small business as well as the job of the letter carrier, all with the intention of putting a smile on her face with my pink pen prose, as I called it. She replied that a text message would have sufficed. My studies in the effects of blue light prompted me to share an encouragement for a break from the EMF waves to add more sun rays, explaining that she'd have to get outside and walk to the mailbox. Okay, so I was being playful there, but there was a healthy undertone. So here I am believing that since we are all connected, that this gesture of a birthday card would not only make her smile, but would have many other positive rippling effects. I could only find wins in the gesture, but it was through her responses that I realized we did not agree. She apologized for getting about my unique perspective and offered, next time I'll keep my opinion to myself. Oh my heart sank. What did I do? How could I offend a special someone with an act of kindness? Am I guilty of imposing my love language? Was the threat of a birthday card actually an inconsideration? Aha. It is not only our differences that divide us, it is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. A quote from Audre Lorde. Given that each of us was gifted with free will and an intellect, we all get to choose our perspective and what works for us. I won't buy into the divide and conquer playbook, so finding a way to stay true to my enthusiastic desire to celebrate my cousin's special day and still respect her views that mail is wasteful was a tough one. In the end, my cousin agreed to view my card before recycling it, and I promised to only text her for her birthday next year. For the record, my love language is time, as I believe it is our most precious commodity. So I'm grateful that Jane always responds so thoughtfully to emails, and Gina reaches out just to see how I'm doing. I love the indulgence of Kathy, Sandrine, and Lynn to ideate or just plain catch up. I appreciate the always a pleasure response from Jason for contribution and Chris for absolutely whatever needs to be done to move us forward, and the willingness of Rachel, Corey, Kristen, Nathan, Ben, Yusi, and Robin to partner on projects. Lorraine always carves time for brainstorming. Barb never shies away from an hour's drive to hit the trails together. And I can't help but smile receiving the treasured handmade gifts from Carolyn's email that mails me, and the regularity with which Mike shares his insights from Ahaz. And forever and a day, I will appreciate the impromptu walks with my sunshine. Maybe it's just me. Mandy Hale said, to make a difference in someone's life, you don't have to be brilliant, rich, perfect, or beautiful. You just have to care. So I put a little footnote on this one and just said, full disclosure, it took me a while to get the lesson here. It did. I have to admit that after the text exchange, and it was a week where I was kind of searching for something really meaningful to write on. And usually there's all kinds of things that present. I mean, I can open up a book and see one quote and come up with an experience and share it. I mean, there's just material everywhere. That's just life. But sometimes I run into a wall and it's like, oh, I just want to talk about something different, or maybe I need to learn a different lesson this week or something. I want to be inspired differently. And after that text exchange, we did go back and forth a little bit with her second, not final, but almost final text saying, well, send it. I will look at it before I recycle it. And again, I just thought, wow, is that what this is? To me, that was very a little condescending and hurtful. And so it took a bit for me to understand that to her, in her importance, that she felt that a text message of the recognition was adequate and that not to waste in order to celebrate her. So it took me a little bit to shift perspective and understand that, in her realm, that was true. There was a little bit of condescension, in the text messages. I think, her suggesting I have a unique perspective, and in my, I don't want to say defense, she called it justification. I just said, there are millions of other people who think the same way I do, that they're aware of the climate guys, that it's, the climate isn't in the crisis that we think it is. Now, having said that, I absolutely recycle and compost. And the last week we talked about, in Human U, we talked about chapter 6, which I think it was chapter 6, called Do No Harm. And we had a great discussion in Human U on what it means to do no harm. And when we know better, we do better, right? So I think this whole evolution of understanding, I mean, I was in line to buy a Tesla car until I really understood how phenomenally damaging they are to the environment, and that and I became resentful that there are certain paths in our highways and our roadways that are designated to electric vehicles. And when I understood the ramifications of the electric vehicles, and I understood the agenda behind the electric vehicles, like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that I have learned that and I have not purchased an electric vehicle. So I think it's, as we learn and as we evolve, you know better, you do better, right? So I don't think my perspective is unique. I think that there's a lot of people who that see the way I see it. However, that doesn't mean that her perspective is wrong. It just means that it's different. And that's the point of celebrating the differences, right? Is that, we're all on our own path. We're all learning at our own speed, and we all have different things that are important to us. As I said, at the end of the day, I know everybody has a love language. Some people love gifts. Some people love, conversations or whatever. I just appreciate time. When someone actually takes the time, whether it's to send something, to make something, to pick up the phone, whatever, when they take time out of their day that to do something meaningful for me, I appreciate that more than anything in the world, because I know we all have a finite amount of time, right? We all have the same 24 hours in every day. And the fact that somebody chooses to elaborate on an email or comment on a post or contribute to something that I'm working on, or to show up for a walk. I know when I get together with my son, it's sometimes, I know that his schedule is really crazy, but he will always, when I drive down, and sometimes it takes me an hour and a half, and not a very long distance, but the traffic sometimes can be horrific, and to drop things off, and he'll, hey, get your coat and, let's go for a walk. And we always have a wonderful conversation. And at the end of it, it's like, were we done already? So I I appreciate time. So I think that anybody who invests time, as I said, whether it's handmade something, the wonderful little gifts that Carolyn sent me for Christmas, there was just a little box and every single thing in there was handmade by someone, her or someone else. And it was adorable, and it was so thoughtful. And, it wouldn't have occurred to me to say, wow, why did you waste, the effort or the postage or whatever. To me, it was the thought that counted. So, but again, I'm recognizing that that's me, that's me, that's not everyone. So I call it a human approach, when someone actually takes the initiative to do something that is thoughtful beyond themselves. And to me, again, maybe I sound like I'm justifying, and to her, it was like I was making a big deal out of something that she thought was pretty small, but I couldn't find all I could find was wins in sending a birthday card. I thought of how many people in the chain are going to benefit by me buying a birthday card and me sending and me celebrating. And I thought it was a nice thing, but to her it was wasteful. So anyway, I think that's the message, right? We're not all going to think alike, and that's a good thing. That's how we learn, and to absolutely celebrate those differences. So I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you next week on Aha Moments. And in the meantime, succeed deliberately.